Look at this. Lunch with a lawyer. My favorite legal counsel, Dr. Gus Passanante. How are you, sir?
Good, James. Good. How's it going?
We're doing what we can with what we got. We're doing what we can with what we got. So we are here to have our monthly session, Lunch with a Lawyer, talking about finance, talking about strategy, talking about the legal side of investing, primarily OTC, primarily those companies that are moving between boards as well, and just to answer some of those due diligence questions. But just so happened that somebody reached out and said they want to come and hang out with us and steal the show. And I believe that the majority of folks that are joining today may want to talk to him as opposed to just me. So I listen. I'm just here to push levers and turn on lights and press record. But before we bring him on, was there anything specifically, Gus? Because again, I want to be cognizant and respectful of you as well. Was there anything specific that you wanted to talk before we got into the further discussion?
Um, I think we should hand the mic to Dennis. I think he has a lot of good stuff
You
to
just dropped
say.
the name already. Okay, I don't have a great poker face. Everyone knows this man was coming. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Dennis OLeary, CEO of DarkPulse. Everybody has the doctor title when they come deal with me. Good to see you, man. How are you today?
I'm really good. I apologize for the messy attire, but I've been crawling around the bridge all morning, so and I'll be headed back over. So
No
this is my
worries. Hey, that means that there's actually physical infrastructure in place, right? Which we already knew. We know that you are out there hands on, which we already knew. Meet and greets across the country, across the globe, talking to investors, talking to partners, things that we know that because that's what you do as well. So appreciate you for that. I'm gonna shut up because the real conversation today was you wanted to come and give some updates to the community in terms of what Dark Pulse was up to, status of the bridge, status of some of these projects. Talk a little bit about that S4 filing that has just been out there, and just if you could just answer some of the questions that may be coming in. Again, I've been very meticulous in terms of what can and will pop up on the screen and things like that. But the floor
yeah
is yours. You and Gus just have at it, man.
yeah I don't even know where to begin. But yeah, I mean that's why I chose to kind of use this venue because Gus is here. We're fully reporting SEC, but now with an S4 out there, it's even more restricted on what we can and can't say. So rather than do anything to cause any possible jeopardy to the S4, even at the meet and greet today, Brian Higley, he's our SEC legal. He's actually coming into Sacramento. I sent Carl down to go pick him up, so he'll be here for the meet and greet at Tony's, which starts at 11:30 today. Tony's fruit stand in Marysville. I hear them now actually, and yeah. I mean, generally, things are moving along. Right where I want them to be. The system's ready to go. I'm pending announcing who it was. I purposely kept it under the radar, mostly due to competitors and things like that. You try to hold some things close to your chest. And we did have COVID kind of slowed us down in terms of manufacturing, even for our own manufacturing over at TJM West. I mean, there's some parts. At times there were a 5-year waiting list for parts. Now it's not as bad as a 3-year waiting list. But it's nice to say that we got through the heaviest lift of it all, and we anticipate units rolling off the line late April, probably early March. I'm sorry, late April, early May. I don't know what month how months go anymore. And then, like I said, I'm out here in Marysville. We have been part of the project for the Huncut Bridge almost from inception. We put the tech into the piers, which impressively are 153 feet long. About 130 feet of it is below ground. And right from pretty much day one, we've been taking measurements in real time on site. For the people at Caltrans and for the general contractor. And I mean, we posted a lot of photos. You saw kind of how the bridge progressed.
Right.
And we're back. Yeah, sorry. And we're back now because, it's a couple of things. One I had mentioned is to prove that, we could do it to existing infrastructure. I put a couple of photos up of the guys yesterday. I mean, we had a subcontractor help us. They did most of the cutting. They can only cut straight lines. So now we're back hand cutting sort of the bends because of the fiber can only go a certain bend radius without breaking. And the reason why we're putting it on the roadbed, people don't like it, but it's mostly for enforcement. We're doing overweight vehicle detection, overweight trucks in particular. When they go over infrastructure, they cause a lot of damage and the wear and tear, and that's why bridges collapse. So Caltrans decided it was a good idea. So we're cutting grooves in the roadbed, putting a different kind of fiber, which is kind of cool. I can just say real quick, we talked about an acoustic fiber sensing opportunity that we're chasing down. And this fiber we're putting in will be able to do both the BOTDA and acoustic sensing. So we went to a completely different fiber product. I guess as a byproduct is the weight detection. We can also do basically torsion on the bridge. I had learned over the weeks of working with Caltrans that the bridges actually twist because of the sun tracking across it. It's something I'd never realized, right? So again, we're running it along the shoulders of the bridge on the roadbed, and that'll give us sort of the torsion, let us know what the displacement is, things of that nature. But more importantly, like I say, the overweight sensing. And again, showing that we could do it into existing infrastructure. We use the same technique. It would just be cutting into the bridge, let's say, using a super concrete to seal it up after we put the fiber in and turn on the unit. So, everything for us we're right on track. I guess I'll hold there in case you guys want to talk. We can always go deeper. I don't want to be the only guy talking anyway.
No, appreciate that, right? Because again, that's some of the information that, to be honest with you, we're not always going to see in 8K filings. We're not always going to see in press releases. We're not always going to see that in even in S4. I mean, just that in-depth kind of analysis of how it's being cut, things of that nature. But I do want to be respectful of that information, and I guess want to ask a question just from a layman and a third person looking in.
Yeah.
You've got this infrastructure in place now. You're actually out here doing the good work. You're wearing the hard hat. You're out there crawling around on the ground. Do folks in industry realize the value of what DarkPulse is bringing? Right. So again, I'm asking that question to you as not only just the chairman, the CEO, but again, asking because what you're trying to bring to market, right? Yep. And maybe the question from an investor, someone who is actually vested in the organization from a retail perspective, saying, why would it take so long for someone to actually see the value? You're doing such good work over here, right? You're saying the company is doing some fantastic work, putting in this smart infrastructure, building this quality equipment. Got the number at the top of your head there in the top left, right? Why is that number not fluctuating higher as opposed to staying flat, going low? Right. Again, I'm just asking just kind of that layman question from someone looking from the outside saying, you're doing all this good work out here. Why is it not resonating either with state of California, or why is it not resonating with other engineering organizations, things of that nature? Or is it, right? Again, I'm asking just that question. I want to know if it is resonating and if you're seeing kind of that hockey stick hopefully turn into fruition.
Yeah. I mean, I can never really talk about why the stock price is the stock price. It's just a whole can of worms, SEC regulation wise. But I could tell you Caltrans for sure understands what we're doing. And we held an engineering session, I guess we could call it. And we ran a demo through, and what's really interesting, we've always been in close contact, but when you're creating software, we were a bit in a vacuum as well too. And it was just this one change that they asked us for, which is, I laugh a little bit because it's interesting, they asked about data sets, data tables. And I was thinking the best way to, display the information on the bridge is 3D, real time and color. Because it's sort of old school with all these numbers. They got to calculate, it takes days. So really I guess an important or traumatic event on the bridge goes unnoticed because of the old school. And I thought, this is the way to do it. But so they see the value in that, but they asked us, is there any way we could still get the tables, the data tables? And I thought, yeah, I didn't think along the engineering guy's side. I thought about make it easy as possible. So what we've done, and some of the people that did the demo in Vegas, Walk the Bridge, there's a blue tablet you can use with a hand gesture. The tablet comes up, and an engineer or an inspector can make notes. Now he can click another tab over, or she can click another tab over, and actually see the data tables as well. So we're giving them both now, and I think it's sort of an intermediary step to get away from just data tables. But obviously, it makes sense to say, okay, we see this red part on the bridge. Let me look in the data set. Oh yeah, there it is. So we changed that part. But in terms of them being on board, every indication is that they love the tech. There is an upcoming meeting with the engineering department. I don't have the date yet, but I think it was the day before yesterday. One of their safety guys from Caltrans came on the bridge, was asking me about the tech because he was going to have to present it to engineering. And I told him that I'd be willing to help, do the presentation. So he invited me to actually give the presentation with him. So we're going to brief the engineering department. They're going to get a walkthrough with the VR headset. But no, I mean, things are being recognized. That's kind of the cool thing. We have a new IR company. I think that's going to help get the word out. And we're, I guess, coming to an agreement with a real PR company, a professional PR company that has some really big names like Airbnb, Indeed, Skullcandy, just a multitude of very large organizations. I know they also handle Facebook, and I believe one of the team members was the marketing director or part of marketing for Microsoft. So there is going to be an effort to really start pushing out some PR. Most likely, my plan is to get out there and actually talk more on different venues to, again, get the name out. We're over the counter. We're still under the radar in terms of Wall Street, right? That's one of the reasons why we're pushing to get off OTC and do the uplist, because no analyst is going to follow an over the counter. The news doesn't follow you. So essentially, we still don't even exist to the world. And again, this is why we're making the change. We signed the S4 to combine with GSD and go up onto the NASDAQ. And things are going to change at that point. I've been involved with another company that was on NASDAQ, and it's pretty much every day, every other day, you're getting a call from an analyst, and they're tough. And it's a whole different ballgame. So, yeah.
I can't wait to see you on this TV on CNBC. All right. I want you and Gus and maybe even Mark as well, Basile, to be on there talking about stuff. So Gus, let me ask you this question right now with DarkPulse filing the S4, going through some of those conversations of growing up, I guess, right? Let me say it for that way. What kind of position does that put you and the other members of Basile in, right? In terms of representation, do conversations change as you move from OTC to larger boards and things of that nature in terms of your legal representation with clients like DarkPulse?
Yeah, Dennis is completely right. You get analyst attention. You have researchers writing white papers on your tech when you're on NASDAQ, when you're on national exchanges. Dennis you said it actually pretty well. You basically don't exist to the world yet. No one's looking at OTC companies. So once that exposure does come to light, I think, in my opinion, not necessarily a legal opinion, but in my opinion, I think it makes it a lot easier for these companies to kind of really direct their marketing efforts, get their name out there, have people understand their technology, understand the value that they're going to deliver to their consumers, whether it be governments, whether it be private infrastructure companies. Not only is the marketing exposure going to be there, but you're going to have, like Dennis said, those analysts are going to be writing papers on you, and all of a sudden the institutional investors, you have their attention, and you're getting clean capital. You're not getting toxic debt. You're not getting a lot of dilutive instruments that are coming in. So it really changes the entire landscape of the company when you're off the OTC. And to answer your question about our clients, we have a lot of clients that we have been discussing potential SPAC deals with, taking the same steps that DarkPulse took, where they went and acquired the sponsor and then targeted and then ends up merging as the target as well. But to be clear, it takes a certain kind of company to be in that position. So that's not something we recommend to all of our clients. It takes a lot of stars need to align in order for these things to happen. It's not a 2-day process. It's not a 2-week process. It's months long. It's very, very hard to maneuver this space. One, because we're the first people that are ever going to do this in terms of a SPAC reverse merger, where the sponsor becomes the target. Two, because you're dealing with a SPAC, you have a whole bunch of separate set of rules that SPACs need to abide by as special purpose acquisition corps. And of course we're delivering tremendous amounts of value to our clients, because now we're getting them in like Dennis said, we're getting them in front of the world. Now the world is going to know who they are. Now there's going to be analysts, there's going to be white papers, they're going to be able to raise capital, they're going to be able to get in the spots where they need to be to make that company successful. So it is. I hope to continue to do this for more of my clients than just DarkPulse, and I believe we will. We have one other client that we're trying to bring through this process right now, and we have a bunch more lined up. But like I said, it's very difficult to find an OTC company in the position that DarkPulse was in to take it to this level. There's not many companies on the OTC that I believe, in my experience, that I've come across that would be in the position to do this, to make this move, to have those resources, to have that kind of dedication, to have the people surrounding them, to support the transaction and take the company to that next level. It's very, very hard to find a company, especially on the OTC, to be able to do this.
That right there, I guess I want to mellow in on that, right? Because you're saying that, again, DarkPulse is the first to go through this process out of anyone else. So I really want the audience, I really want the consumer, the retail investor, the folks watching, listening now and on the replay to, I guess, understand that aspect, right? This is hard work. This is kind of breaking new ground. The questions being asked by those that are, again, have their hard-earned dollars vested in the company, vested in the mission, vested in Dennis and leadership and all of that. Most of them make sense. But again, they also should understand, coming from the legal team's perspective, from what you have to go through to get actually this over the hump, to get this actually turned into reality, hasn't been done before. So again, I really wanted to let you say that entire story right there, and that entire process, so folks kind of understand. Not making light of anything, again, not making light of any numbers that folks are seeing or losses and profits or whatever the case may be, but just understanding of what is happening in terms of groundbreaking activities from the legal perspective, from the representation perspective, SEC regulations, what Dennis can and cannot say. Like I got a ton of questions that came in. Listen, let me tell you something. Folks now know my email. Some folks, I don't know how, but know my phone number. I got I got questions this morning. I was jumping in the shower and I got questions on Twitter. I was like, what in the world? I did. Again, and in full transparency, and I had a conversation online as well. I posed all of those questions to you, Dennis, gave you the opportunity to say. But again, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to let you say it the right way. Folks, you got to read the documentation that's out there. Right. What the information?
511 pages.
So. Right. Find the cliff notes if you can. But this conversation is the cliff notes. Right. Again, some of the things that you've said already were really kind of a summation of what's out there. But, folks, if you want to understand not just DarkPulse, but companies that are in this particular position as well, not even just OTC, not NASDAQ, not just Dow, whomever you're financially vested in, read the documentation that comes out, because CEOs, C-suite, leaders of those organizations are bound by legal restraints of what they can and cannot say. Yeah, we want to hear that there's 20 bridges being put up. Well, they do. I'm not vested in the company, but they want to hear there's 20 bridges being put up. They want to hear that the partnerships and the collaborations and all of the things that you talked about at the meetup in Las Vegas, they're all turning into fruition tomorrow. But again, those things can't happen. So my summation, and then I'll shut up. Again, folks, you have to read and understand that there are limitations in terms of what the legal side can say and what the leadership of these particular organizations can say.
Yep.
Don't read into it with emotion, I guess, right? I guess that again will be my challenge to those that have invested in companies. Don't read into it with emotion, but understand that the true logic and what's actually written in there in terms of the facts piece. And then when you can say something, you're obligated to, you're legally obligated to speak, right? You can't withhold because you're a public company. So
Exactly.
summarize what I just said there, Dennis, in a more proper form, because
Yeah.
I'm high on
Yeah.
this coffee right now, brother, and you don't know what's going on with it.
I need some coffee. We've been up since about 4 a.m. again. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, James. And what's funny, like, I think I saw one of the questions where people are asking about, like the SEC, and like we use that as an excuse. That's not an excuse whatsoever. And I'm always going to err on the side of caution, because one wrong comment, this whole thing, could be over for us. So I'm not taking any chances. I'm not trying to insult anybody or ignore their question. The bottom line is, I'm going to always go, like I say, err on the side of caution. And also, to your point, we're not filing 8Ks on everything we do. Like, we posted that we're going to be out here on the bridge today. But a lot that goes on behind the scenes, it's not a mandatory filing. So again, unfortunately, shareholders don't get as deep an insight as they might like. And I totally understand, people invested. There are some people life savings into the company. But I could tell you, we're working 7 days a week. The company's moving into, and I just take a half step back. In the shareholder letter before this last one I put out, I mentioned that our focus is going to be expanding into markets, growth over profits, essentially. But it's not so much a growth over profits, because we have been, again, sort of stuck a little bit in the mud in terms of getting the units built, because of the fact that there's this parts delay, and it's across the board. It's not just us. There's the manufacturer we work with. They're a global entity. They do billions of dollars a year, and there's parts they can't even get. So, there's things that are out of our control. But the interesting thing, or I guess the good thing for us, is that we are in a position now actually do some design changes to avoid parts that are not available. We're able to say the system's going to full manufacturing. We have the Multinet, who's a distributor and working on a channel program in the Middle East. And we're looking at the hot spots, where to go in terms of selling, infrastructure monitoring. And we're still looking at, more acquisitions that will bring revenue to the company. Will also sort of expand the global footprint, and then, additional capabilities and perhaps more, sorts of technologies that sort of can layer in with what we're doing now.
Cool. So those partnerships and those growth opportunities obviously are still going.
Yeah.
There was one in particular that you mentioned in Vegas, and my memory escapes me.
My memory is shot, so I'll never
listen,
know.
you're normally at 40,000 feet in the air, so to have you on terra firma is a different story for sure. We've got a ton of folks watching. We've got a ton of folks that I know that are going to chop this up and dissect it in various ways, and respectfully so, right? Again, wanting to hear everything that you had to say.
Yeah.
What can you tell them today that they can look forward to tomorrow in the short term, right? What can you tell folks who, irrespective of the dollar number there, right? But let's talk about the company, and let's talk about direction, things that are not NDA.
Yeah.
What can you tell folks today that they can expect from DarkPulse tomorrow?
Yeah, so we did put a couple of press releases out about Optilon signing contracts. There's quite a few contracts there, and I'm trying to see if we can release a number of what the value is. It's difficult in terms of, because people are asking, like, who's the contract with? We have NDAs. Optilon signs an NDA. We can't say we're working with so and so, and basically we'll lose that contract. So, and we generally don't put dollar amounts in either. But that's what I'm working towards, to try to put some sort of document. But even that's tough. Gus will tell you it could be construed as a forward-looking statement, even though they're signed contracts. So we have to be very careful, especially there's a lot of time that we put into building this. and a lot of people are relying on us. So we have to be extremely careful in terms of regulations. So that's just unfortunately the way it is, and so there's no real breathing room in terms of what we're going to release. I understand this back transaction is confusing. You know, for me, it's built on good intentions, versus other ways to do it. I figured, well, I'm confident this is better for shareholders, including myself. I'm still a shareholder as well. So, regulatory, it's, shareholders always have to be considered, but it's even just beyond that, just the team, working together. We always consider what we do for shareholders. So, and that's never going to change. Trying to think what I can say. That's the kind of the tough thing. I think the bridge is really interesting. There are certain meetings we've been having up in DC that are related to the bridge project. And, I think there's a lot of interest now, but I think once we sort of throw the switch and the thing goes completely live, then we're going to gain more traction. We should gain more traction after that. But people have to understand we're not building the bridge. We're a subcontractor. And we do what we're told to do. Like
Good
we're given a
distinction.
window.
Good distinction. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're told be on site between this day and this day, and you guys have X amount of hours or X amount of days to get off the bridge because other things are going on. So, it's again, we're not controlling what's going on there, but I could tell you the tech is very impressive. People that we have talked, about with the tech and given virtual demos, they like it. They like it a lot, and I don't know what else I can say. I'll throw it to Gus because he's
Yeah, I
he's
tell
a
you what,
good.
Gus, before you answer, Gus, I want to say something before it falls out of my head. You mentioned other you mentioned like Washington D.C., and that's what I wanted to ask you.
Oh, okay.
You had talked about other hiring opportunities, expansion, things like that, and opening up new offices. Now, I was just wondering, were some of those still happening, or are you seeing kind of some?
Yeah.
Are you falling into some of these economic downturns as well that some other organizations are, or are you continuing to grow the infrastructure and the team for DarkPulse?
Yeah, well, we're still growing,
Cool.
mainly because we're sort of working from a backlog in opportunity,
Okay.
and we don't have a large team. I think now between the subs, we're somewhere around 200, if I remember. But DarkPulse is extremely lean, and one of the reasons, actually, I saw a question like, why do the contracts come through Optilon, not DarkPulse? That's why we bought Optilon, partly because of what their capabilities are. And that is, the main focus for us was not just their global footprint, but their ability to actually install the systems for us. So, and that's what they do, sort of like an integration company, and they've been doing pretty well for themselves. So, when will it come direct contracts to DarkPulse? Once we get the hardware out there, then we're selling our services related to the hardware. And even before that, I forgot to mention we started the Aero division, so we have DarkPulse Aero. We're already flying missions with DarkPulse Aero, so again, we're working, and it's a process. I retweeted an Elon Musk tweet because he was like, I forget what he said exactly, but that basically it was 10 years. They were flatlined for 10 years, and now things are happening. And my answer was overnight success. And that's kind of how it is. People expect things to happen right away.
Yeah.
They don't realize a lot of times it's 10, 15 years behind the scenes to get something out there and actually be successful. It's a lot of work. It's definitely not easy. Luckily, I love doing this. I enjoy everything that I'm doing here. And, I'm trying my best. There's not enough hours in the day.
There's only 24, man, and I know you were using at least 23 and a half of them, and Gus is trying to get you to sleep a bit more.
Definitely 20 hours, literally 20-hour days. But
Yeah.
but again, that's the kind of things you have to do. You got to put the time in, you got to put the work in. So I have no problem doing it. So,
Mr. Passanante, what do you got, man? Again, I mean, I positioned that question to Dennis about what can he share today that's going to be valuable to folks tomorrow, and that was a good response. I mean, how is your involvement going to possibly increase tomorrow based on what's happening today, right? As for filings, are you going to continue to build on the relationship, grow the partnership, and things of that nature? Do you see something that folks can? So now I'm doing the pitch for the law firm, right? You know, how can folks realize and understand that you are the subject matter expert as a whole in this particular new field of SPAC uplist, right? What you're doing, right? You're rewriting a brand new chapter in these legal annals. So, what can folks understand and look for tomorrow that you're doing today?
So, James, you said something before. Remember that you wanted me to kind of clarify. What is this groundbreaking thing? What is this new avenue that we're putting forward? Suggesting to our clients and asking them to do. And I want to make clear that the transaction itself it's a merger. Mergers have been around forever. So it's not necessarily the transaction that's occurring. It's the steps that DarkPulse took to get here, which is, I don't believe has ever happened before, which is, stepping in through the sponsor. And I think we spoke a lot about this in that episode that lunch that we did for SPACs specifically. And DarkPulse is going through that exact process. What I can say, with respect to DarkPulse specifically, or any company rather, is that the S4 is the beginning of the end, right? So that's when things are about to finish. The S4 is a registration statement of the merged company, of the new company. So once that registration statement goes effective, the merger closes, and that exchange process occurs, that share exchange occurs, and all of a sudden, DarkPulse is now merged with Global System Dynamics, and they continue to exist as this new entity with their new securities that were just registered through the Form S4. Think of a Form S4 similar to a Form S1. It's just for when you're issuing stock from a company that has from essentially a new entity, the new merged entity, right? Because there's registered stock for one company, and then there's registered stock for another company. But now when these companies come together, there's going to be one company. It's a new company which issues those shares, reissues new shares. So the only thing that's standing between this closing is the S4 being declared effective. What's standing between the S4 being declared effective is the SEC commenting and ensuring that the proper disclosures are made. Registration statements are always going to be commented on. There's a few registration statements that are generally not commented on by the SEC. But the S4 is one that is heavily commented on because of the aspect of two companies coming together, right? There's two pro formas on this, on the S4, and then there's a condensed pro forma. So there's a lot going on in it. That's why it's so large. That's why it's such a large document. And once all those comments are resolved by the SEC will then declare the S4 effective, and then pursuant to the BCA, the merger closes. So in terms of DarkPulse, what there's to look forward to is the effectiveness of the S4. No one knows when that'll happen, but what is something that is known is that the SEC has 30 days to respond to comments every period, right? So, for example, it's filed, let's say on the 1st, on the 30th, the SEC has to provide their comments. Then there's a couple of days that the attorneys have to respond to the comments. Once those attorneys respond to those comments, the SEC has another 30 days. Generally, they don't take the full period, the full 30-day period, except for the first round of comments. So it could be shortened. So if there's 3 rounds of comments, won't necessarily be 3 months, but it could be, because the SEC has technically 30 days for each comment period. So it's kind of hard to predict. No one can predict it. No one knows how long the SEC will take to comment. But this is, it's essentially where, DarkPulse is getting to the finish line. And like I was saying before, I think this is a great opportunity for a lot of my clients. but it's also they're hard shoes to fill. There's certain boxes that need to be checked for a client to be in a position to go this way. I've been approached by probably a dozen companies asking me to do this, and I've said no.
Wow.
You need to be a right candidate. I'm not going to advise somebody to do the wrong thing. And not only is it just just resources that are going to be expended on the transaction and all the expenses associated with the transaction, it's the dedication. It's, are you going to be there all weekend to make sure that you're on the phone with everyone you need to be on the phone with? Are you going to be there all night to answer the phone? It's not just if you look at that as sport, it's not. I mean, me and Dennis got real close these last couple of weeks. We're constantly in contact all weekend, all night, all the time, from 7:30 until we go to sleep.
Yeah.
Whether it's talking about something serious or Dennis sending me a TikTok, something funny. We're constantly in contact. Of course, TikTok's not working with, but it is. It's constant. It's a lot of dedication. That's another thing that I think that Dennis doesn't really get a lot of credit for. And he's made this joke to me before. One time he wasn't answering my phone, so I made a joke. I was like, hey, call me back. I know you're not doing anything important or something. And he always responds with something like, I actually work. I'm a CEO that actually works. And Dennis comes onto the screen and he's covered in dirt. I mean, the guy's literally on the bridge helping cut the grooves. And it's like, that's something Dennis doesn't really ever get credit for. So it's not just the resources. You need the team. You need the people around you that are going to be dedicated and do the right things and make sure that they're going to see this to the end. Because you can get to the 99-yard line or to the 1-yard line, you can get 99% of the way there and the whole thing could fall apart. And all of that money and work that went up to that, into that 99%, you might as well throw it into the garbage.
Good point.
And that's what we analyze when potential clients come to us and ask if they could do something like this. We analyze all of these factors, whether we believe that the management is going to be able to stick this through. Do they have a good team? Do they have a good support staff? Do they have the supporting cast that's going to answer the phone at all times when times get tough? When it's crunch time, there's a lot that goes into this, and it's I hope that we can find a lot more clients to do things like this, because I think for the right candidate, it's a brilliant avenue. It's a great avenue to get onto a national exchange, but it's tough. So it's not just I'm not just handing out hey, sign up, hey, let's do this. There's a lot that goes into this, a lot of thoughts, a lot of teamwork, it's a lot of communication, and I hope to do it more. But
Awesome.
lucky enough to do it with DarkPulse, who we thought was a great candidate.
Awesome. Listen, and yeah, we both know Dennis doesn't know anything about the word sleep. Right. Again, every time I call him, he's in another country, another time zone, get another stamp in his passport. But today you are close to my neck of the woods. Today you are going to go over to Tony's fruit stand, and remember, get a couple of trays of peaches. Listen, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been there. I don't know if they're in season or anything, but get some peaches and get some pecans. Oh my gosh, let me tell you something. Forget the bridge. All right, just go to the fruit stand. But talk a little bit about the meetup that's getting ready to happen, because we want to be cognizant of that time, so you can get out there and maybe shake some of that dust off of your hoodie that you got on right now, and see everyone that's coming out.
Yeah. I could say 40 degrees sounds warm, and let's say standing on a bridge in the middle of nowhere with the wind blowing at I don't know how many miles an hour for 8 hours, then it feels cold. Actually, Brian Higley just came in.
Nice.
The whole crew, we take an Airbnb rather than pay all this money for hotels, so we're all packed into an Airbnb here, and so Brian just arrived. So yeah, we'll be out there. We're going to start it at 11:30. And pretty much like what we're doing here. Hopefully we can field enough questions. That's why Brian's there, because again, there's an abundance of caution to make sure we're doing things the right way. And we've had these in the past at Tony's, and we've always had great turnout, and people enjoyed it. And again, like I say, I understand the process could be confusing, and there's so many things online that you can read yeah, even on like major websites like Investopedia, and there's points missed there as well too. So it's very hard to go out and try to gather correct information. Um, so, and then I was going to bring up the chat rooms, but there's chat room experts, and they're not experts. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I don't go in the chat room, but every so often one of the shareholders will send me a screenshot, and and sometimes I can answer to correct it. Most of the times I can't, but again, it's a 511-page document. I point people to that because that's the deal. It has nothing to do with what anybody's saying in any chat room. So you got to go to the source. I mean, I forget how many AKs we put out last year, hundreds, because I've always been super transparent. So I try to put out as much information as possible. But yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised Gus wants to do this again because we filed it on the 14th. I think we didn't sleep the whole 13th, the whole 12th and 13th. It was actually funny because him and I were like texting, going back and forth. We're calling, we're on the phone. And then sort of one by one, people would drop off. Like, because we have like outside groups that are helping, other law firms, other auditors. And it was me and this guy for 2 days straight. And there was definitely no sleep there. And so, yeah, man, it's a heavy lift to get that. And Brian, I have to say, who did most of the work around, the wording on getting the S4 together.
Yeah.
And Scott, like just hours and hours of work these guys have put in. I mean, 511 pages. It's not cut and paste. So, but
you bring true meaning to the quote that you put out every now and then to the Beastie Boys. And when it happens, then maybe you will sleep. But no sleep till Brooklyn. But for right now, you continue to do the work, continue to get your hands dirty. I like the fact that you said, honestly, that you're bringing on possibly a PR firm so you can actually kind of remove from some of the daily conversation and be more strategic. I had that conversation with you in Vegas. I said, the usage of the value of your time is more needed for the company and for the organization and the growth, being strategic as opposed to being tactical and answering a whole lot of questions that someone else could answer, right? Designate someone to do those kinds of things, let you lead as opposed to only managing.
Sure. That's why, again, we have Blue Shirt as our IR firm.
Cool.
So, we have them doing what they can do. And then we have this PR firm coming on shortly. They really just going to help get the name out. And
I love it. Gus, listen, this has been another great one. You brought on this guy right here. He comes over and overshadows and overtakes the session, but it's all right. I'm seeing some of the tweets come in. We're getting more thumbs up than thumbs down. Someone gave us a thumbs down, but they changed it. So I guess that's good.
Yeah.
We actually said something of value, and hopefully there was some value.
And again, I understand it's a complex thing. It was complex for me. I was learning through the process. I think all of us were learning because every situation is different. Even, if you file an S4, other things come up. So I get it. And, I know we couldn't answer a lot of the questions, but unfortunately it's the nature of the beast. And it's sort of going to always be there because we're public. And, I guess at times it feels like a disadvantage because I like to be able to say more, but I also understand it's to protect shareholders because, again, if I answer an email or, something on Twitter and a shareholder doesn't see it because they're not on either a platform or part of an email thread, that's not fair to them. And that's why the SEC has the fair disclosure rules. And that's why I'm super careful in what I can say. And there's times where there's words you use, like we do anticipate, the PR company coming on, but anything can happen. So I can't really say we have a PR company till it happens, or yes, it's going to happen. And that's just, you can't do those things. So the language might seem like, we're trying to not answer or avoid things, but the bottom line is there's always a legal reason behind it or a regulatory reason. So people just kind of have to understand that.
Makes sense. I'm going to shut up because after I said that, someone did put that thumbs down. So, hey, Gus, you got anything?
That's good. We got one.
So
it's good. It's always
you
good to
wanted
have one dissenter.
There it is. There it is.
No, not really, James. I think just a message to everybody: just do your own research, read it, try and understand it. I know it's hard, but all the information that almost every question I've ever gotten has been able. You could derive the answer to a lot of questions from reading filings. So
Mm.
I think the putting effort into that might be worth it for some people. Putting effort into learning and understand these kinds of transactions and being informed as an investor, I think that's valuable.
Cool. Well, gentlemen,
And honestly, sorry, I was
go
just gonna
ahead.
say, and also there's like what 4 or 5 shareholder letters. I would read that. I think it gives a good timeline, and there's a lot of breadcrumbs in there. People understand what the thought process is and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Listen,
no, you got it, brother. But again, these cliff notes that you were able to give to the community and to those that are vested today, I think helped, right? Helped answer a handful of questions, probably brought about more questions, but again, you gave some clarity, and for folks to actually see you, and again, see you covered in some of this California dirt actually matters and resonates. But this has been a great session, man. Appreciate both of you guys. Appreciate the majority of the community for these opportunities. This is a good way to go ahead and close the chapter and close the book and move on to the next thing. So, Mr. OLeary, thank you very much. Gus
Thank you, James,
Passanante,
as always. Yeah.
talk to you soon. Be well.
Thanks, James. Pleasure.